This is Raise Your Voice as part of the Fans First Sports Network. I am your host, Brett Rutherford, joined as always by my good friend and co-host, Darby Robinson. We are live on youtube.com/at Raise Your Voice. If you're joining us live, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, turn on those notifications so you can join us every time we go live. And of course, we're also still available wherever you get your podcasts. Darby, it is the day after the trade deadline, one of the most fun and busy trade deadlines in recent memory. We had a good mixture, I think, of blockbuster deals, of reunion deals, of rentals being moved to contenders, teams making gambles in different situations. And of course, the Rays were involved in all of that. The Rays are, there was a story in The Athletic about the Rays. It wasn't just about the Rays, but that they were the biggest trade deadline dealers of the last few years. And that continued this week. I'm glad that it's over. I've often said that this day in the baseball calendar, the trade deadline and the day after, is like my favorite because it's pencils down. You know, you're in the second half. It is the pennant race now. The games mean more. You're scoreboard watching. If you're a fan of a team that is still competing, there's really no more moves to be made. There might be some waiver claims, but this is it. We're in the home stretch. We're headed towards October, and that's why I'm really excited. No matter how bad the month of July was for the Rays, I'm really excited for August to get started tonight at home against the Dodgers. How are you feeling about the trade deadline in general from across the league?
I love this time of year. I'm right there with you. This is the rumors and the trade proposals and the atrocious fan proposals and the just like the hopes of like something's going to happen. You can change. I love this time of year no matter how good like the Rays are doing or no matter if they're playing for something or not, because that's the thing with the trade deadline is you are either pushing some chips, you're selling off, you're trying to basically make changes. And if it's a bad year, changes are great because you're like, I'm done with this pile. Let's see something else. And whether it is trading veterans for the future, which is maybe years down the line, and opening spots for prospects to come up, or you are buying a bit. It's a I love the trade deadline. It's great, and it does. And you kind of mentioned this perfectly. It's what it signifies too is that now you basically stake your claim like I am trying to win this year or we'll get them next year. And I also just think like every year, and this is probably entirely I just not scientific, but it does seem like the Rays are pretty rough in July. They usually have that's like one of Kevin Cash's worst win percentage months, but then they get really good usually in August. They usually have a good run. And I can't help but wonder how much for a team like the Rays who are like you said always involved and there's always rumors and they listen to everyone, how much that affects this team more than almost any other because so many people are, thinking about I just need to get through the deadline
Right.
and then I can be like breathe. Brandon Lau made a mention of that, like
Yeah.
after the game, was basically like, I'm really happy to still be here. I'm really happy to see the guys that are still here, and I'm excited about what they get, what we got. But like, there's I think like this collective, it's the opportunity for teams to be like, hell yeah, my GM is believing in us. Let's go get it. It's other people to be like, whew, I don't have to move. I was getting really worried. I really love our dentist. My daughter's got that. Like there's all this other stuff that like these are people. These are like grown as adults who have real life problems. And this has got to be as exciting as it is for us to discuss and all the content that it creates. It's got to be the worst time of year for a lot
Yeah.
of them because everything is so stressful, and
In
especially on the wives and girlfriends and partners
mhm.
because they're even less power.
And we hear a lot, like specifically about Zach Littell and some of these other players. Like the Rays are try to be as transparent as possible with their players. They know, what hey, the Rays might give you a heads up. There's a possibility that this could happen. We'll let you know what we can, but obviously in trade deadline season, you got to keep a lot of things close to the vest. So there was a lot of wheeling and dealing. Some teams like the Cubs and the Red Sox maybe weren't as active as their fans would hope. Some people think that Jed Hoyer was on vacation after he signed his big multi-year extension to remain in charge of the Chicago Cubs.
He got his.
Then there were
He's like,
teams.
I'm done.
Yeah, then there were teams like the Twins who talk about a team like going into this season. There was a disappointing. They had a disappointing year last year. There was still some hope, I think, this year that they were going to field a competitive team. You look at the talent they had up and down the roster, and they kept probably their best pitcher and their best position player in Joe Ryan and Byron Buxton, but pretty much anyone else has been traded.
But Buxton is that only because Buxton was like, you literally can't trade
Yeah,
me?
try to.
Because they were like, all right, we'll trade literally everything else around you. Yeah. That's a wildfire sale.
And it feels
Thank
like
God they weren't playing yesterday. Thank God they weren't one of the 6 teams playing, because they couldn't get through the game with that many trades.
Before we get into the details of the moves the Rays made, I had a very similar worry when the Rays' afternoon game against the Yankees, and it kind of came to fruition, was delayed until after the 5 o'clock hour. There was less than an hour till the deadline, and the Rays, in the first 5 innings of that game, dealt with 3 injuries to position players that had to leave the game. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But Yandy Diaz, Chandler Simpson, and then Jonathan Aranda goes down with the scariest injury of them all. I thought his season was over, and I guess there's a chance that it still might be over. It sounds a little more optimistic. But anyways, you get now a delayed game. The Rays have 1 player left on the bench. It's backup catcher Matt Thaiss, who could have also been involved. We saw the Rays make a move with 1 catcher. He could have been traded as well. And I was wondering, it's 1 game in the regular season, but some of these fringe deals, are you a little afraid to make them if you're going to have to throw Kevin Kelly to play left field or something like that for a few innings in Yankee Stadium?
You have guys like Matt Thaiss and Christopher Morel, who both absolutely could have been and probably were being shopped, and it would have, you literally wouldn't have had anybody else besides just like a pitcher.
So we did see, though, Jose Caballero traded to the other dugout when the game resumed. Jose Caballero was in the game at second base. Brandon Lau moved from second to first when Jonathan Aranda left the game, and then moved back to second when Caballero was traded, and Matt Thaiss comes off the bench to play first base. And someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Matt Thaiss does have a little bit of experience at first base. It wasn't like his first time.
That's actually where he was before. He actually been right field and first.
Okay.
When he came up, catching is actually kind of newer to him.
Oh, really? I actually didn't know that. So it did leave the Rays with an empty bench. Had there been another injury or if another player had been traded. Christopher Morel was in the DH slot at that point. Let's
could have punted that DH, but
So if you needed,
they probably should have. This was one of those things where they probably should have just had this be an off day for everybody, and then just as much as it. I will say though, the Caballero scene that has been played a ton, like a true hug watch where he got to come off the field and Cash told him that he's traded, and it's already been all over the internet too. But Taylor Walls looks like he's got World War I, 1,000-yard stare.
Taylor, I mean, you're locked into this team forever. They've had every chance to get rid of you.
No, he's there. Well, but that's kind of wild. Somebody mentioned he went up to that bat with a teammate, and then when he came back, that guy was traded.
Yeah.
Within the at bat. That's it's kind of wild. That's pretty wild.
To the team that you're playing against in their stadium.
To right across the way. Now, it wasn't for a major leaguer because otherwise technically could Caballero have come into the game?
I don't think so. I think your roster is set at the game time.
Okay.
You couldn't make a call up from the taxi squad in the middle of a game.
No, but it would if they was traded for.
But he wouldn't have been on the lineup card. He's got to be on the lineup card.
Right. But yeah, that's true. Yeah. Okay. Never mind.
I did think about that.
I mean, it was a messy game, so that would have been a hilarious thing.
I push back on wanting it to be an off day. Again, like I said, I love, if you have a 6 p.m. deadline, I know it used to be 4, I think. But if you have a 6 p.m. deadline and then all of a sudden at 6:40, the first slate of games is starting, like I love the adrenaline rush of like knowing, oh, that team just got this sick closer. He's not going to pitch tonight, but let's watch that game. Like I love
I like that. I would
maybe
say
it should
that
be
we
an
should
off day for AAA. And that way you can have an increased taxi squad. You could fly out. Maybe you do like move a AAA All-Star break to this time, and you can have like 5 guys on the taxi squad just waiting in case there are moves made to backfill the roster.
Love it. That's a good get you to the commissioner's office.
Yeah.
I like that plan.
I don't know. I just like the idea of playing like where you get the hug watch situation. I don't really like the afternoon game because then it created some interesting situations for the Rays once the delay happened. But yeah, I am in favor of trade deadline day baseball. I think it adds to the chaos when there's games
and chaos
going
there
on.
was.
Yeah. So let's get into it. I'm going to kind of work in reverse order of the direction that the trades were made in, because I think the biggest and most shocking one, I think, for a lot of Rays fans was going to be the one that broke after the clock hit 6. I think it was Jeff Passan on the news first, but you saw this flurry of deals flying through, and this happens every year, and a lot of them are like pretty minor deals. It's this starting pitcher rental that goes at the last minute. Like I think Charlie Morton went to the Tigers, but the Rays went out and called up the Minnesota Twins. They wanted to get in on that fire sale. But this was not a cheap buy getting Griffin Jacks from the Minnesota Twins bullpen.
No.
The Rays sending starting pitcher Taj Bradley the other way. He's been talked about a lot on this show recently, having just been sent down to AAA. He is a Ray no longer. And in the chaos and the madness of trade deadline day, that like I haven't had time to process that this guy who's was drafted by the Rays, came up through the minor leagues, and had a really promising start to his career is just gone now. He's in Minnesota. That's a big deal. And it signals that the Rays still feel like they can compete this season. It signals that everyone can recognize there was a clear need in that bullpen, and they go out and they get Jacks.
This was the Rays deadline is really fascinating because as he gets down to it, there's 2 deals, and we'll talk about the other one next, but like there's 2 deals that happen right at the 6 p.m. deadline or right after that are just like right on the buzzer beaters that completely change the perspective of what the Rays are doing.
Yeah.
And Griffin Jacks is such a big one because coming into this, I think we had all talked about, if you listen to the pod, probably going to be buying and selling, right? This is the Rays. They buy, they sell. And if they're going to buy, they're probably going to buy multi-year things, right? Multi-year pieces. Yeah. And Griffin Jacks is still under control for 2 more years after this year. You look at things that are going to help you in 2026, as well as try to compete in the last half of this season. Getting Jacks, though, like this was, I was thinking, we had talked about, I think, Brock Stewart. We had mentioned with Brian on the show, a lot of other kind of more under the radar.
Yeah, like a month ago, I was going to say go after Duran.
Sure. And then the month, July was such a big failure that you're like, okay, we're not going to do that. And all the talk was Duran and Jacks pretty much priced the same, huge price tags, right? Like they are going to be, aside from Mason Miller, who we did see traded, and we'll talk about some of the other big moves that happened around, but like that was the number one closer traded, which I think a lot of people weren't aware that was available, or if it was, nobody could stomach the price tag
except for AJ Preller.
Only one man. Dave Dombrowski. Maybe even Dave Dombrowski wouldn't have been able to.
Yeah,
and that man hasn't thought about a prospect in his life, but there's only one man that's even less, and that's AJ Preller. But like outside of that, like outside of Mason Miller, like the biggest closers on the market were in Minnesota, and Duran and Jacks were pretty much mentioned like side by side. It's like we might trade one. They're both priced at basically the highest level. So whichever we trade, we'll keep. They ended up trading their entire bullpen, every single member of it. They traded to everybody. But yeah, Jacks, we were thinking like, once they traded Duran the night before, and once they had traded Colomb and Louis Varland and like all and Brock Stewart, like
where did Varland go?
Toronto.
Ooh, I
Toronto.
like that pickup as well. I like Louis Varland.
That's a great pickup.
Yeah.
Listen, I had mentioned on the pod basically, and I mentioned this like a ton, but everybody in the Twins bullpen, like when the Rays have been struggling so much, I was like, I'll take literally anybody in that bullpen. They're all
Yeah.
great.
I mean, that's a team that I said it. I think I don't know if I said it on this podcast or if I just been saying it, but the Twins are a team that were like primed for rating. Like they're kind of at a
Yes,
crossroads. They're
their
still
owners
in the
have
outskirts of the
loaded
wild card
themselves with doubt.
race.
Their
Yeah.
owners have loaded themselves with debt, like private debt,
Yeah.
which is really unfortunate for Twins fans. That
But
the
still like a
Polands,
talented team that is a little
yeah,
bit confusing why they weren't competing or they weren't doing better. Um, I imagine like Rocco Baldelli is gone after this year.
hmm
They kind of need a remake, but let's talk about Jax. Um,
this is a huge. He is priced at Duran's price point for damn good reason.
yeah, one
Like
of the
he
best
is
strikeout
great.
relievers in the game. Last season was like one of the best relievers in the game. Full stop. He made
This
72
year,
appearances, had a 2.03 ERA, a 34.4% strikeout rate. This year, you could argue that he has pitched better and just seen
yeah,
worse results. The
the ERA is a
ERA
little bit bad.
the ERA has
Of
inflated
his,
up to a 4.5, but
but the
he's
rest is great.
actually striking out. His strikeout rate is raised by 2%.
hmm
I'd have to look where that ranks around
So
baseball.
he is. I have it. His K minus BB is 29.8%, which is fifth best of
Mm,
all relievers in baseball. He is behind just Josh Hader, Randy Rodriguez, Aroldis Chapman, Fernando Cruz. He is ahead of Edwin Diaz, Alex Vezia, Jeff Hoffman, Mason Miller, Brian Abreu, David Bednar, who also got traded.
yeah.
Uh, like Griffin Jack's huge K rate, huge K minus BB. By just K rate, he is seventh at 36.4%. By
One of only 9 guys that can have that 9% sorry, 36%. One of 9 guys that has 36% or higher.
by FIP, fielding and independent pitching, he is fifth at 201. By Sierra, which is I like that a lot of skills interactive ERA. He is number 2 in all of baseball, just behind Randy Rodriguez. Like this is in a elite
Based
reliever.
on a number of metrics, could one make the argument that he's the best reliever in baseball? I'm not saying that he is, but there are enough numbers that
Skills
back up
based.
that could
Yeah.
back up. You could make the case.
Yeah, I think skill wise, you can absolutely make the case he is right there with everybody. He's also kind of a tinkerer, and I think that's something
Yeah.
that is really fun. Uh, he like listen stuff what like the velocity, the movement, the a lot of the results. I mean, like he is truly elite, and he has done it before too. I think that's the other thing is like he did this last year. He's doing it again this year. Yeah, don't that ERA. Don't worry about it because the other thing too with relievers, the pitching innings are so low that you can have a blow up game, and that will
Yeah.
soil your ERA for like months.
This season. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
His
really
his
hard to predict.
xFIP, and I don't love xFIP as a metric, but he leads Major League Baseball in xFIP for relievers by like a country mile. Like he has a 1.72 xFIP on the season. The next best is Randy Rodriguez, who has a 2.4. Aroldis Chapman 2.46. I mean, like there are metrics that say like this is the guy. This is a guy that was
We're
better than Duran.
when we're talking, yeah, I mean, I think on all these lists I mentioned, like K rate, K minus BB, Sierra, FIP, XFIP, Duran is not being mentioned on all these. Like he's very good, but like this is a if you want whiffs, you are looking at guys like Aroldis Chapman, you're looking at Mason Miller, you're looking at Josh Hader. Griffin Jax is also who you're looking at. Like that is in that list. And he immediately becomes the best reliever in Tampa Bay. I don't know if he will be the closer.
I
Like they
don't think
might
you will.
keep
I think
you
you
might
keep
keep
Pete.
Pete as that.
I think you keep Pete Fairbanks, and at least through the regular season, like he's getting the ninth. Not to say if you get into September and there's like a matchup game you want to play
Yeah.
where like those outs become even more important. And in October, all bets are off at who goes into
Yeah.
what role. But I think now you keep Jackson the role that he's kind of done in Minnesota. and you
And
keep beating the role
Jax,
that he's been here.
that's the other thing too, is Jax hasn't been the closer, quote
He
unquote,
is. He
in
will be the closer
Minnesota.
for the Rays at one point, though.
Yes. I mean, I think going into, and we'll talk about this later, but like going into next year, like there's a very good chance that he is either the closer or he also has a lot of stuff and a lot of pitches that I would not be shocked if we saw him stretched out into a starter.
I agree.
It won't be this year. It won't be this year.
No.
But like that is such a move that you can also make where yes, trading Taj Bradley, a 24-year-old, many years, so 4 more years of cost control, a lot of potential, tons of good stuff. The command and especially the splitter just disappeared on him, which completely erased any chance of success. He had a horrendously his regression this year was really disappointing. He just did not seem to progress at all from last year, and that splitter going away was it. And Minnesota can absolutely get him back. That splitter has to get there. Probably needs to add another pitch, a fourth pitch, but you gave up a huge piece. And the Rays don't usually do that for a reliever, but you do it for a reliever this year and then maybe a starter next year. Like I would not be shocked about that at all.
And Jax has a big enough pitch
totally
mix to make it work.
He's had interest in it in the past as well. Mike Farron.
In his rookie year, he was a starter.
He was. A lot of Minnesota's bullpen was actually, Duran, Jax, Varland. These were all starters. I think Brock, he was also a starter until like multiple arm injuries.
It's hard because there is obviously the added risk when you add innings onto the arm. The Rays have been comfortable to do it in the past. But when you've got a guy like Jax who, from a team control standpoint, has 2 more years of arbitration left, is scheduled to become a free agent after the 2027 season. So this is not like a super controllable piece that you have more time to mold. Like he's already very good as a reliever. Do you want to mess with that? Do you want to risk like stretching him out to a starter and then the workload's just too much for him and then he gets hurt and then he missed the 2027 season and then he's a free agent? So there is some risk in that.
Totally true.
There's also risk, like pitchers can get hurt at any time, and that can happen whether you start him or keep him in the bullpen.
Yeah, every throw is a hellscape for pitchers, for the arm.
I mean, we could see the Rays have similar extension discussions like they did with the Drew Rasmussen, where they talk to Griffin Jax and they say, if you have interest in starting, we have interest in building up as a starter. Let's buy out a couple of those free agent years, add some options in. Or if you want to hit the market, you can do that, or we can work with you. The Rays are open to working with you.
I was just thinking like that is what I would potentially do. Is I agree. Like maybe do you start him if you only have 2 years left, but do you go like, okay, you're our closer. However, you've had interest in starting before. We would love to do that. Let's mitigate the risk together. Right. And say like, let's offer you a 3-year deal with an option year.
Yeah.
So you buy out 1 free agent year, you get an option year that's at a pretty high rate, and we will start. We will give you the chance to start. Because then as a player, you now are putting off your free agency 1 or 2 years, but that payoff would be 10x if you're a starter versus a reliever.
Okay, yeah. And I was just looking at Spot Track has his numbers way wrong. So he's making $2.5 million this year, which makes more sense. Spot Track had him at league minimum, and he's in RB year 1 after the year he had last year. So that didn't make any sense. So he's got 2.3 million is his salary this year. Avoided arbitration with the Twins. Has 2 more years left before he becomes a free agent. So it's interesting. It's clear that he slots in as your best reliever. That much is obvious. He's going to pitch in a lot of high leverage situations for this season. He has been, knock on wood, incredibly healthy. So again, maybe there is more trust in that arm there. He's got the pitch mix, I think, to make it happen. Sweeper, changeup, four seam, sinker, and he'll throw a cutter, it looks like, every now and then. Fastball up to around 97. I don't know. He does everything you want as a pitcher.
Sick really. Stuff. Like sick, nasty stuff.
Which again, like, man, the Twins bullpen was loaded. And how are they losing all these games?
So loaded. The other thing too that Griffin Jax does is think about how good this Rays bullpen was when you had Manny Rodriguez.
Yeah.
When you had that other trusted eighth, ninth inning guy, it allowed everybody to breathe a little bit. You now can push everybody down just a little bit in the order.
Yeah.
You have still Garrett Clevenger's having a spectacular year. Pete Fairbanks, not the same legendary Pete, but he's still really, really freaking good. Griffin Jax is one of the best relievers in baseball. Brian Baker's had a very rough start to his Rays career. The stuff is still great. He's gotten some bad luck as well. So but that pushes him down. Edwin Uceda possibly was doing, there was talk that he was tipping pitches in the first half.
He looked really good the other night at Yankee Stadium.
He's looked fantastic since the All-Star break.
Yeah.
Since the All-Star break, he has been back to last year's Edwin Uceda. And it's also a more comfortable role for him doing a two-inning start or two-inning appearances. So whatever it is, I will give him credit because they believed in him. They clearly, but if it was tipping, that does make a lot of sense, right? Because it did seem like everybody was just absolutely feasting and sitting on it. But now you have Edwin Uceda's doing pretty well. That bullpen transforms dramatically.
And I guess I didn't realize how good his June was as well. His ERA was still above 5, but Edwin Uceda, the strikeout rate has been above 40%.
One of the best strikeout pitchers in baseball
since June. In the second half, it's 48%. So if Uceda has recaptured some of that magic, you talk about some of the other teams like San Diego that
oh my god,
their bullpen and what it looks like is the best bullpen in baseball, and it probably is, especially with Miller now. But then I look at the Rays bullpen, and if you've got last year's Uceda, Griffin Jax, and Pete Fairbanks,
the stuff is there.
The Rays are right up there with Miller and Suarez and Estrada. I think the Padres is still better, but the Rays are
what's been frustrating this year with the Rays bullpen is that it's been
Kevin Kelly
worst bullpen. Well, yeah, Kevin Kelly's been atrocious, but it's been one of the worst bullpens in all of baseball, despite the fact that this has been probably the best stuff top to bottom that they've had in any bullpen year. So it's a really weird, frustrating year for that regard. So hopefully, and bullpens are very flexible and they can switch out very quickly. Hopefully that will mean that second hand, they can go on a heater for a couple weeks. You're talking about 8 weeks.
Yeah.
This bullpen can absolutely have to do that. So hopefully they will. And we can finally get back to real Rays bullpen. But Jax was a huge, huge addition. And a lot of teams were in on him. A lot of teams were offering big. So the Rays had to go big on this offer. Taj is a huge trade piece. This was not a dumping Taj move. This is trading for a top 5 reliever by most available metrics.
There would have been a lot of Taj trades that would have been worrying to me with knowing what Taj is capable of. And my biggest fear is always that he will have a true breakout year that lasts. He will figure it out. I think most guys do with that stuff. And I would hate to see it be with another team. And it looks like that will happen, whether it's the Twins or someone else. The Twins also just need starters, so he's probably going to be back up in the big leagues this year. They need pitching. Marcus Stroman was just released by the Yankees after pitching against the Rays yesterday, so he might, if he's still looking for a job, he might be heading up to Minnesota too. They need guys. So best of luck to Taj. Trading another young starter to Minnesota is a little worrying. But with Jax, I think the goal is clear. It shows that you want to be competitive not only for the last 2 months of this season, but also be right back in it next year. Again, because this guy's not super controllable. If you're following the Rays way, he would be, in trade rumors probably starting next July if things aren't going well and he's not on another new deal.
But also this is another thing too that we have to kind of put into it is that's the Rays way, but who knows what changes with
that's true.
Group.
That's true. New owners.
We are in the last days of the Stuart Sternberg era. They are trying to send him out on a high. But yeah, who knows what the directions will be, what money will be available. I mean, I think people should temper their like
Yeah,
expectations
for
of
sure.
money, but
Definitely.
that does we really do not know like what is the Rays way in a new era. So
Yeah,
we'll see. But for right now, what a shocker. What a
I,
shocker.
I agree. Let's
Maybe
move
even
on.
as shocking is the next move we're going to
Yeah,
talk about
which again was
because
very, very late,
very late.
like in the last 20 minutes before the deadline. But it was the Rays getting starting pitcher Adrian Hauser from the
Yes.
Chicago White Sox in exchange for Curtis Mead
Mm-hmm.
and two AAA players. It was Duncan Davitt and Ben Peoples, two
Yeah.
AAA pitchers that really didn't have prospect pedigree. They were like organizational filler.
Peoples was Rule 5,
Yeah.
already eligible. Duncan David is Rule 5 in December, or I have those reversed. But either way, they would
Yeah.
have been having to add to the roster by this winter and
Like neither of them are
cleaning some stuff
bad.
up.
Like they might get in the big leagues at some point, but not.
Perfect pickup for White Sox, though.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that, give them some run. They similar to Mike Vassell, who is a Rule 5 who didn't stick with the Rays, been pretty good for the
yeah.
White Sox. Yeah.
So instead, the Rays get 32-year-old starter Adrian Hauser. He's pitched 68 and two-thirds innings this year for the White Sox over 11 starts, and his results have been elite. I mean, he's at a 2.1 ERA. I think
Insane.
if you look at some of the peripherals, the strikeout to walk rate, some of the other numbers, it's, he's that number is probably he's pretty lucky to hold that ERA,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
the results are what the results are, and he has been effective. One of the few bright spots on an otherwise terrible White Sox team. And you had an open spot in your rotation now with after trading Zach Littell, which we'll talk about in a second, and then obviously Taj Bradley can't come back up. So your position of depth, you traded two starters. We talked about would they even trade one starter? They traded two. You probably needed to bring at least one person back in, and that's Adrian Hauser. And I think for a fifth starter, I'm all for it.
Absolutely. I mean, so this is the interesting thing: is the Rays right at the end of the deadline did two buyers moves.
Yeah.
These aren't like like oh we're gonna shift some stuff for a couple of pieces. No, these are just straight up buy. Like Adrian Hauser is a rental. He's a pure rental. He's got 2 months left. He's got 10 starts basically left. And that's what the Rays traded Zach Littell very similarly, right? Because there's 10 starts, maybe at best like 50 innings, right? Uh, so yeah, do that rental trade. But trading for a rental, I think, is a little. I think people are a little surprised by this move, and especially because it came late, which was trade for a rental, like trading Mead, who has a lot of years of
Right.
control left, and then trading Taj, a lot of years of control left, for a reliever, like a top end reliever, and a vet starter rental, is just not super raisy. But it kind of makes sense when you look at when you zoom out. You couldn't get, and we'll talk about this trade later. You couldn't get the trade. You traded Zach Littell to get pieces that you can use to send to the Dodgers for a piece you want. You can't offer like alternative history of this is you can offer Ben Peoples, Duncan David, and Mead for fiducia of the Dodgers, and the Dodgers are like, I don't have any interest in Curtis Mead. There's no interest. He's about to run out of options. He has to be on the
Mm-hmm.
roster next year. He's never making the Dodgers roster. That's a useless piece for them. So you basically you move stuff around and you've essentially traded uh, Curtis Mead for the piece we'll talk about
Right.
next, Hunter Fiducia, and you still have your fifth veteran starter that's on a rental that's going to
Yeah.
wait.
It,
And in this case, I mean, you look at like Zach Littell has been amazing this year. Has been you just straight up between him and Hauser, you don't know what they're going to look like for the
mm-hmm.
next 8 weeks, obviously. But like so far this season, I mean, Zach Littell's pitched 133 innings, so great. I mean, he has been as steady as a rock. 3.58 ERA, really solid. 4.88 FIP, not as great, but he has to play in the Stein, so that's there. And a 0.9 Fangraphs WAR. Hauser, 68 innings pitched, 2.10 ERA, 3.29 FIP, and a 1.7 FWAR. FWAR
Mm-hmm.
WAR is a counting stat in a lot of ways. You need more innings you have, or the more innings you play, the more you can get. The fact that he has half the innings and double the WAR of Littell just shows how good of a season Adrian Hauser has been. If he pitched as many innings at
Mm-hmm.
this rate, which is huge ifs, he would be a 3-win pitcher. He'd be
Yeah.
almost a 3.5-win pitcher. That's kind of crazy. Now, that's you have to get 133 innings. That's
Right.
those next 60 could be a disaster piece, but that's you looked at what the Rays did was like an upgrade potentially in their Littell spot, and then an upgrade in another spot using organizational pieces who have run out of runway.
Yeah, and a couple of things that I think the Rays emphasized is okay, you really didn't have any other options. Like McClanahan is not ready yet.
Mm-hmm.
The guys in AAA are either having to make a 40-man spot, but like Joe Rock hadn't been starting, Ian Seymour they've been using out of the bullpen. So at the beginning of the year, that was your organizational depth for the fifth starter spot. You've still got Connor Siebold down there, but again, none of these guys are with the decision that the Rays have made this year of you're getting the ball every fifth day and you're going 6 innings, it feels like, other than like with Rasmussen. And
Mm-hmm.
you could argue whether or not that strategy has worked this year. I think in a lot of ways the pitching has been worse. I don't know what the reason is, but they've changed the way they're using pitchers and, getting rid of bullpen days and openers for the most part in the majors. But that's what they're doing this year. So Hauser is a guy that you could get for relatively cheap. Curtis Mead was getting picked over by Coco Montez and Tristan Gray. You could say that that's because they wanted to keep playing every day, but I think it's just you kind of saw what you had in Curtis Mead, and it was time to move on. You get a guy that has a little bit of upside if you're the White Sox for a veteran pitcher that was leaving at the end of the season, and then you get two organizational guys, and those guys might find roles with the White Sox or at least have time for that big league audition. This trade
It's
made a lot of
great.
sense for I think for
It's
both teams.
Yeah, I love this. I love this trade for the White Sox. It's listen. It's you don't have any need for 2 months
Yeah,
of Adrian Hauser, right? You can lose without him, plenty fine. Uh, and actually, he might be too good. He might actually ruin what you're trying to do here. Curtis Mead is a guy who I think we have long been hoping like the scouting and the raw stuff is there, right? He is somebody that has the tools to succeed. And for whatever reason, he's had some bad luck where just as he's getting started, like something else comes up. He
mm-hmm.
has gotten his run though. At times, he like this year was not really the case. He was basically on the bench and never really played, and so this really wasn't the time for him to get that run. But he did make the team out of spring training. He did work hard. He had an amazing spring. He made the team, and then he kind of that early on he had an extended run there where he just did not perform.
Yeah,
He just could not hit, and it's been a long time. Like I think the Rays, he has earned a long run with a team to get comfortable, but the Rays have also given him enough rope that he just has not been able to take it. The power has been always my biggest concern with him. He has not generated enough power. He has not generated enough home run ability, enough doubles ability, and that's a killer, right? The contact ability is fine, but he doesn't have the speed to make that contact ability work. He needs the power. He's been too passive that I've seen in the majors. He's done nothing but crush in the AAA level. The AAA level is not for him. But so far, the Rays just have not had a room for him. And it clearly, they had reached the end of their line with him too. Like when Lau and Kim went down and it was a trade for Tristan Gray instead, I think that kind of marked the end. That sort of suggested that Curtis Mead was not going to be on this team. And even with the Jonathan Aranda injury, that Curtis Mead trade
mm-hmm.
happened after that. Like there was the opportunity to say like, all right, crap, we're going to have to pull this back because we need Mead to potentially be first for the next month or two. This was a sign. This was a real sign that I think like they had reached the end. I'm excited for Curtis Mead in Chicago, though. This is the perfect team. Like I had talked about like Oakland, Chicago, Miami, like these teams that are not in contention right now, but you how do you get into contention? You take chances on, hell, the Nationals would have been a good choice too. Like you take chances on like guys like Meade who have huge prospect pedigree, who have the raw tools, haven't put it together, and maybe with extended playing time, they do it. Oakland's done it with like, well, Sacramento now. They did it with Brent Rooker, who is kind of blocked in Minnesota. They pick him up, and he has been an all-star a couple times over. Kyle Stowers with Miami has kind of done that as he was blocked in Baltimore. Chicago, they've done this before with some other guys like Vargas, but I think this is a good choice. You pick up Curtis Meade, give him some run, and I hope he succeeds. I hope he does really, really well. But I think this is just a good use of the Rays cleaning up what you're cleaning up the 40-man roster to improve your team right now. You know that you're probably not going to be able to trade Meade. You're trading these people for, pieces for the long term. You're consolidating them into something right now. And I will see how Hauser does, but I think on paper right now, it makes the team better.
Yeah.
It does end. It clips a trade tree because Hauser will leave as a free agent. And that does clip the Christopher Sanchez trade tree.
Oh, all right. We need to, I'm a big trade tree fan, so maybe we need to extend Hauser for one more year so that we can trade him.
Maybe, yes, we can do
keep it going. Yeah, man, Eric, I didn't even think about that.
Keep it up.
But now I'm looking to see if any of our other trade trees grew. I guess the Luke Raley trade tree has grown. Let's talk about that one next. Caballero to the Yankees. We talked about the Hug Watch earlier. Traded for right-handed hitting outfielder Everson Pereira and a player to be named later.
Pereira is really interesting. Back in 2023, the Yankees kind of had like a big promote all the kids run where Everson Pereira, Oswaldo Cabrera, and Oswald Peraza.
Yeah, Pereira and Peraza I think was traded too. But Peraza all of those guys, I would get so confused on the Yankees for years.
Yes.
And now they're not none of them are on the Yankees anymore, so it's a little bit easier.
Yes. Oswald Cabrera, I saw him basically break his leg in Seattle this year. It was brutal. Yeah, that was rough. So Cabrera's still with them. Peraza was traded to the Angels, and Pereira now with Tampa Bay. Pereira, really interesting prospect. 24 years old. He's demolishing AAA pitching. This is his second year in AAA. Just butchering AAA pitching. He's up to 18 home runs, 19 home runs. 19 home runs. Yeah. 127 WRC plus, 850 OPS, almost 400 WOBA. Tons of power, elite power, elite hard hit rate. His X stats in the minors are off the charts. The contact, the quality of contact is really, really good. Big issue is whiffs. He strikes out a lot. He strikes out a lot. He swings through a lot of pitches. He's missing pitches, even in the zone. His chase rate is not great, but it's not terrible. It's actually kind of average. So that's good, but he's missing pitches in the zone, which is not great. I think this is one of those guys that he was a top prospect for the Yankees. He was 2 years in a row a top 5 prospect on the Yankees, according to Baseball America. He was 5th in 2023. He was 3rd in 2024, had Tommy John surgery, and then has since come back. And the bat still shows those big whiffs. So he kind of has fallen down a little bit. MLB Pipeline slots him in at number 17 on the Rays system. Right-handed bat. A lot of people with this whiff rate immediately were sort of saying he's Christopher Morel again. He is, maybe, I guess, very similar. The biggest difference though is that Pereira has even more tools. He is a very good outfielder who's very fast base runner. So he's got better speed and he's got much better defensive ability in the outfield. He has played all 3 outfield positions. Seems and scouts have sort of said he's been comfortable in center field. but probably profiles better in the corner outfield.
Yeah.
And if you were to take a Christopher Morel that could actually play the field, isn't that just like better?
We'll see. I mean, if we'll see if they give him the shot. Like they did not trade Morel. That
Nope.
was like felt like such a given for a while, and
It seemed like the team was done with Morel, and
yeah,
they might still be.
right. It might just be a DFA.
Hmm. They know
Um,
what was available. They know what was available on the market. They have, I'm sure, been doing hitting the phones on this, and so they either did not love the return or they are fine with just a DFA instead,
yeah, I don't
or
know.
they're like, we believe he can bounce back, and we're going to give him a run.
It was interesting to say the least that he stayed, and then the Rays did bring in what looks like a potential replacement. Um,
Yeah,
but maybe we'll hear that they're sending Pereira to Durham, and they're going to let Morel play for another week or so, or not play, just hang around the
yeah.
clubhouse. He did get in as the DH yesterday, but
He is friends with Junior Caminero, so like I think that's a big point in Christopher Morel's
okay, sure,
like favor is that him and Caminero seem to be like very close friends. So
yeah. What will be interesting here is that that was not the only piece of the return. There is a player to be named later, and it
yeah,
feels like swapping Caballero for Pereira, like it Caballero, and I'm his biggest fan as like a baseball player. Like I think guys like him are more like are valuable and they should be on more teams. There are other, Jose Caballero types out there that get looked over. But to be able to play so many positions, to be able to run well, play hard, the hitting has got to be a little bit better than it was this year. But that's kind of who he is at this point. I'm glad that like he's going to go on a time. I'm not happy that it's the Yankees. Um, but swapping him for Pereira felt like a little bit like a downgrade. I think Pereira's got higher upside, but Caballero is going to help you in the roster right now. The player to be named later though might have been what put it over the edge for the Rays. Maybe there's two or three pitchers they're looking at adding from the Yankees system, and they'll make that
yeah,
call in the offseason.
totally.
Which the Rays love doing that, right? The Rays love getting, they get a little bit closer look at whoever whatever players they're deciding between for the rest of this season. And the Yankees might have felt the pressure to add a utility man in Caballero, as they have, their injuries are starting to pile up as well. So a weird interdivision in-game trade, but
Is here's the question: will Caballero cut into Anthony Volpe's shortstop time?
he might. And what I think it does, it just gives them another option where maybe you're not playing Volpe every day, although Aaron Boone has felt very strongly about that. He continues to play the Yankees and Aaron Boone. They run the same lineup out there every day. It's been Jazz Chisholm at second base. It's been Jason Dominguez in left field. Ryan McMahon is their new third baseman. Volpe plays shortstop every day. Ahmed Rosario, who they just got, and Jose Caballero, who they just got. Like, I don't know. Like, are these guys going to see the field, or are they insurance policies? Austin Slater was another right-handed bat they got, and then Paul Goldschmidt's the only guy who has not been playing every day, with how good Ben Rice and how versatile Ben Rice has been as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. The Yankees are interesting. Caballero does feel more like a true bench player. He won't get as many opportunities there as he did with the Rays, but maybe he's one injury away from being a really big piece for them down the stretch.
He was Caballero. I think has a very excellent. I think his time in Tampa Bay, he couldn't have done more of than what we kind of wanted him to do.
Yeah,
The bat, I think, would have been nice to just see that just get a little bit better. He did not really ever reach that level, but fun player, tons of hustle, uh, caused psychic damage to opposing pitchers through being just sheer annoyance. Kind of like the Pat Bev of like
oh, I like
MLB,
that.
just a guy who like if he's on your team, you're really a good fan. If not, you're like, God, get this little guy out of here.
Yeah,
But yeah, you could also tell obviously with that hug watch like how beloved Caballero was. Like
definitely
that's a guy that I think everybody in that clubhouse really liked. So that's
agreed.
awesome.
All right, next trade from the night before, although stuff was kind of finalized at different times, was Zach Littell to Cincinnati uh, in a three-team trade with kind of a three-team trade. It was two
Kind of a
separate
three.
trades.
I have my own raise my voice on this.
Yeah, it's not really a three-team trade. It was two separate trades announced at two separate times where the Rays flipped a piece that got back for Littell to the Dodgers, part of a much bigger deal with multiple players to get catcher Hunter Fiducia. So first, let's before we get into the return and some of the other mechanics of both of these deals, let's talk about the Rays losing Zach Littell.
Is Zach Littell like the most perfect example of the Rays development success? Like he is got to be up there as like the poster child for this. And Littell, after being traded, talked about how like he was emotional about it. He was like very again, every one of these trades too, everybody like you mentioned at the top have talked about like really thank the front office for being how transparent and like totally honest with them throughout the whole process, which I think kind of goes to show that that's not necessarily always the case.
Yeah, and Zach Littell, a guy who's been through this before.
I think Boston is a good example
right.
of maybe not as much love with that. But he also sort of praised the team, like how he mentioned that basically the Rays changed his life. Like this guy was a complete throw-in kind of, like let's get some innings in the middle of let's take a shot. Like this is a journeyman reliever who was to this point before the trade was best known for nearly getting into a fist fight with Gabe Kapler on the field in San Francisco, which after knowing what we know about Gabe Kapler, like Zach Littell, good guy.
Yeah, Team Littell on this one.
Yeah, maybe get a couple punches in there. Why not? But like he was a he was in the majors, so like that's already better than the most people. But like he had been bouncing around. The Rays get him, and he was solid in the pen, like pretty good stuff. Useful guy there, and then kind of out of necessity, he started getting some openings, and then it kind of went from 1 inning to 2 innings, and 2 innings to 3 innings, and then he was starting. It was just a starting, and then you're like, that's weird, and then he just kept starting and was so consistent and so good.
Kept preventing runs from being scored. Like just kept producing.
Just exactly like I wrote an article about it on D-Race Bay, just like an ode to like this, like almost a bygone era of starter who's not super flashy, but like just damn solid, right?
Give him the ball through a complete game.
First 9-inning complete game for the Rays in years.
Yeah.
And kind of why not? Why wouldn't it have been Zach Littell? This guy.
Yeah, and it wasn't like a dominant outing either. He gave up 10 hits, 3 runs, 2 homers. Like,
but he churned through, and he even got this year. Couldn't have been a worse ballpark for him. Although the Great American Small Park might be a little worse in Cincinnati. But just I cannot praise enough Zach Littell. Seemingly the person he seemed like always. Brandon Lau talked about it too. Like everybody's gonna miss Zach Littell being on this team. He also seemed like a guy that maybe it's hard to see from like, just from watching from afar, but like certain guys, like you can tell, like, everybody will say like, oh yeah, well, we wish him luck and best of luck to some people. And then there's guys that are like, oh man, he was like my best friend on the team. Like this guy is great. Like you don't know like the impacts that these guys have just day to day. And Zach Littell seems like one of those guys that had a positive impact on everybody. And good, but yeah, what an amazing success story for both Zach Littell, his effort to work there, for Snyder and the Rays pitching and the development, and just this all together to take this guy who was a journeyman reliever to now being a rock solid starter to the point where like he is a deadline win ad for Cincinnati. They needed a starter. They went out and got him, traded a pretty good prospect, like their 10th overall prospect on their roster or on their organization, and another pitcher for Zach Littell because they think he can help them get into the postseason. That is the career trajectory, and that is kind of the way where the Rays can do this sometimes, and that's what makes the Rays an enticing team for a lot of players too, because they're like, I want to get to some of that Zach Littell magic. I want, can you help me like get to that level? Can you help me harness what is inside them, right? Like Zach Littell, he's the guy throwing these pitches. He did this. He has the stuff. He needed a team to believe in him. He needed maybe some like ideas and tweaks, what things he can work on. And now Zach Littell going to Cincinnati, could be pitching in a pennant race, and is about to be a free agent. And we've seen, Alex Cobb with 2 bad hips, who still hasn't thrown a pitch, got $15 million.
It's going to set Zach Littell up to be a very rich man.
Zach Littell is going to make some money, and a team's going to be very smart to sign him. I think it's not sexy to be a 4th, 5th starter, but you know that you can turn the ball over, give a guy, he's going to give you 5 to 6 innings. It's going to be 4 or 5 runs. Like, he's not going to blow up, but he may not be like the best. Going to have some really good ones too. His ERA is still under 4. Like, he's still really good. And in pitching half his games in like the worst home run ballpark possible. Awesome. I mean, can't praise Zach Littell enough.
Yeah, definitely. And in the return the Rays got for him was long reliever / starter Brian Van Bell, a guy who had come up for the Reds briefly, but was in AAA Louisville for them. I got to pull up his page. I don't know where it went, but is a 40-man roster guy.
Yes.
And we could see him in the big leagues at some point. I mean, the Rays are going to have some innings to cover.
A lot of looking at his stuff, like hot, heavy changeup, a lot of contact suppression. It's like, oh, it's Zach Littell again.
Okay. Yeah. Van Bell had not debuted yet.
He's not
this season. Okay. So he was with Boston and then Cincinnati in AAA this year. And he seems fine.
Mm-hmm.
He seems like they'll use him. I wouldn't get too hung up on this guy. The more interesting player that was traded in the Littell deal and then traded again was 6'5" left-handed starting pitcher Adam Serwanowski, who's in high A right now, had been drafted out of high school in a low round, was not really, seen as a big-time prep player in the draft, and has developed really well in Cincinnati and pitched pretty dang well in the minor leagues. And when the Littell trade was first announced, before we learned the details that Serwanowski would be flipped, I was very excited about Serwanowski as a new piece, a big lanky lefty in this Rays system. He's only 21 years old, 6'5" in high A. I was kind of salivating over this pitcher and what the Rays can do with him through their minor league system. Soon to find out that he is not going to the Rays. He's going to the Dodgers in a deal that the Rays would get minor league catcher Hunter Fiducia. And it wasn't only Serwanowski that it took to get Fiducia. It was also Paul Gervais, who was a guy the Rays got last year's deadline with the Mets, had done really well in Durham, got a few opportunities in the big leagues, and Ben Rutherford,
which is like a strikeout rate in the minors, one of the best strikeout pitchers in the minors.
And Ben Rutherford, who the last time I was at a Bulls game was like the bullpen catcher for the Bulls. So it felt more like a favor to Ben Rutherford to just get him in a situation where it looks like Dodgers AAA will need another catcher and he can actually play in some games. He was barely playing with the Bulls.
It's good to have a backup catcher, emergency, like not their backup catcher. Obviously, they have a couple others ahead of them, but you need these in the minors.
So I think, in these two deals, you lose Littell, who was a pending free agent. You lose Gervais, who was bullpen depth. You lose Rorved, who was an afterthought. And you get back Brian Van Bell, and you get back Hunter Fiducia, who was clearly blocked at catcher in the Dodgers. Yes. They went with Will Smith and Austin Barnes for so long. Now it's going to be Will Smith and Dalton Rushing in some combination. Fiducia had no path to playing time there.
No.
But I think there's some question marks about what he can contribute and what role. Like, is he going to come up and play for the Rays this year? Are they going to keep him in AAA and hold on to Matt Theis? We don't really know that yet.
Yeah, we'll know more in a couple of hours, actually, which will be kind of wild. But
I think there's a chance that you look back at the return for these deals and you're disappointed that neither of them contributed. I think that's a possibility with all trades. I mean, look what happened when you traded Blake Snell and you got like nothing out of it. This is obviously a much smaller deal, but like Fiducia, I think he could be good. I think he could be one of the answers to the Rays catching problem. But it's clear right now to me that Eric Anders is trying to throw numbers at the problem. Like, we're just going to get a bunch of different guys in here to catch until one of them sticks.
See, okay, yeah, I think that's I push back slightly on that. Okay, so you got a really good piece. Surinowski is a really nice piece. He's a long ways away. A lot of reliever risk on him because he has a really good fastball, a really good slider, no other pitch,
and some command issues.
And yeah, big command issues, but like whatever, it's minor. High A, I don't know what pitcher has ever had command. That's like
the guys that have really great command and stuff do not pitch in high A for very long.
They're never coming. They're never. Yeah, if they have great command and stuff, yeah, they're
getting fast tracked to the big leagues.
They were selected in the first round and they're pitching the next day with the Angels. The Surinowski is a big time piece. That is a guy. If you are you're selling Littell because it's the deadline, he's your only expiring contract basically. So get a low A pitcher. He's not even going to need to be on the Rule 5 until next year, not this winter, but the next following season. That seems like if the Rays were just like, all right, cool. I just wanted to check a box. You win the Littell trade because 10 starts, even if he is the best pitcher for the Reds. Is that something you needed? Probably not. And now you got a guy that can be, 12th or 13th on your top 30 next year. And then maybe he has a helium year and bops into the top 10. You check it off. Trading him.
He's even, if you get back into the postseason, was he going to start a playoff? He was going to be on your postseason roster, but he's not going to start a game for you.
Yeah, probably in the pen. Right. Yeah. Like maybe the fourth out of a game 7, out of a 7-game series, maybe.
For like a 2 or 3 inning short leash
with a quick
type of start.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is, trading him and Paul Gervais, who I think we are both big fans of, 6'10", huge.
And it scares me that the Dodgers targeted him.
Sure. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the thing is, I think when the Rays are trading pitchers, you go, what's wrong with them? But then when the Dodgers are trading 4 pitchers, you go, okay, what's right with them? When they both trade with each other, you're like, okay, you both have the same evaluation. So clearly this must just mean, but that's the thing, right? That means to me, Ben Rortvedt, you toss that out. That's just,
doesn't, sure.
That's just whatever. That's just moving. That's nothing. Gervais and Surinowski is a really nice package. Hunter Fiducia getting that back is not just, to me, it's not a Matt Theis trade, which is like, we got to upgrade Ben Rortvedt as a lefty catcher. We just got to get something more productive in here. Fiducia feels like truly a maybe a little post-hype prospect who got blocked, who you look at him as like, this is a Michael Busch scenario. That was like, Michael Busch was never going to play with Max Muncy and Freddie Freeman. Chicago goes and gets him. He got kind of post-hype because he kind of stagnated, right? Like that's kind of the Cubs' problem is a lot of these guys, Miguel Amaya is like another one. Like these like great prospects, they stagnate in the upper minors because they have all-stars and Hall of Famers ahead of them.
Right.
And so you go out and get him. Michael Busch has been a key piece to the Cubs' resurgence. I'm not saying Fiducia is as good as Michael Busch, but you are looking at a similar profile of a guy that's getting a little too old for AAA, who has been there before, who has the talent, but doesn't have the opportunity. The thing is with Fiducia, this guy has kind of a lot of really good batting skills, right? His K rate is not crazy. It's 20%. The walk rate is absurd. It's been at like 15% the last couple of seasons. Power light, not none, but definitely could have a little bit better power. But he gets on base, he makes contact. His grades are really solid, right? It's like raw power is about 40, hit 40. Speed was about like 30, 40. Fielding's been 60. Arm is about 50. Like there's a lot of like 45, 50 grades all throughout with a 60 grade. He's a spectacular framer. He can
Mm-hmm.
block. He's a good glove catcher who also has like really good bat tools. So like I think usually when you're looking at these catchers like Nick Fortes, which we already talked about, that's a great glove guy, doesn't have a bat. Like some skills there. Theis is a guy that's like learning catching, okay framing, not great blocking, but a lot of good walks, right? He doesn't really do much else of anything, but he walks a ton. You look at these guys, like Danny Jansen was a great example. Like he can hit, terrible framer, one of the worst framers in Major League Baseball, but he can hit the snot out of the ball. So you take those chances. Fiducia has the chance. Like the tools are there. That like the biggest like but this about him is he is terrible at base stealing. Like he is terrible at controlling the run game, which again in the minors a lot of that is on pitchers as well.
Yeah.
Like his pop time is poor, but not like broken. So
Also, with the new rules, like guys are going to steal bases. I don't really care. You got to get them, keep them
it's
off
almost
base.
impossible for these. It's like you have to be flawless. We've seen like some people be able to beat Chandler, but like it's almost.
I think it takes
most of the time they
it,
just don't
it adds more value to the guys that are able to get guys out more than it takes away from the guys that can't.
Yeah,
Because I think even the average catcher is having a hard time throwing guys out right now.
It's the least useful skill of all catching defensive
Now,
traits.
I will argue. I mean, does that change once ABS is in place?
I still think
like framing becomes less valuable, right?
I don't think we get full ABS. I think we get challenges. I think it's many years from now before we get full. And that I think still means that like you can frame some pitches that are close and you're getting a lot of strikes. You're not challenging everything.
No, I think framing takes a hit even with the challenge system.
100%.
How much of a hit is to be seen? I mean, I'm sure there's minor league data out there that can tell you this. Probably not publicly available.
Jose Molina again once we have the ABS.
Yeah,
like I think that's the level. But I think it's a spectrum of things. So with Fiducia, he's a good framer, good blocker, good receiver, good contact, solid power, could be better there, but really good contact ability, good batter's eye, good vision. It's really hard to find a catcher that has that skill set. Like that's a really difficult skill set to have. I mean, it may not work. It totally may not work, but this doesn't feel like a trade that you make just to get another body because they have bodies, right? Like they could call up Logan Driscoll. They have
he's hurt right now, but Keegan, Keegan and Piper are options.
You have Kenny Piper, you have Dominic Keegan. Like you have guys that you can use, and you also have Matt Theis. You could just keep Matt Theis. He's under contract. He's average and fine. Like you're
below 500 right now, so it's like you don't need to push for.
You don't have to. If you don't believe in it, you can just be like, whatever. Trading for Hunter Fiducia to me with that package, adding Gervais, adding this, the Rays balked on a lot of moves. They had like only Zach Littell is the only move that they kind of needed to make to get value back. Everything else they didn't need to do. This is one that like when Neander takes a shot, it doesn't always work out. But I do appreciate that he is taking these pieces and targeting a guy who they clearly believe in, and they're adding him. We will see if it works, but I think this is not just another warm body. I think this is like an absolute, like we are targeting some guys that we think could be answers to catching.
I agree that they targeted Fiducia. What I struggle with is, do we think that the Rays are good at identifying and evaluating and developing the catchers?
I I would say if we survey says no, they have not done it.
So should we be
But
excited for this guy? Should we be like, I don't know. We've
yeah,
gone
no, maybe
through how many catchers since Mike Zunino left? And you
Mike
could say
Zunino's
that
one that they got.
it is the
Mike
hardest
Zunino's
position.
one.
Yeah,
It is
that was a great one.
extremely hard. It is extremely hard.
So there's a lot of teams that don't have it figured out at the catching position, but there's a few teams that I'm jealous of. And like we talk about,
Yankees just keep they had to Carlos the Red Sox got a Yankees cast off catcher.
Yeah,
and he's an all-star or all-star level.
So we'll see. Maybe this is the one. Maybe this combination of Fiducia and Fortes is the one that sticks.
Fiducia and Keegan next year,
or Fiducia and Keegan.
I think for me is you got to keep taking shots, right? Like, yeah, maybe they don't have this, but we also don't know what they've changed, what they've shifted. They went more offensive minded this time around, this offseason, and that clearly just did not work. And I think they really missed the defense. Like the thing with Fiducia and Fortes, especially, that really, to me, like signifies like a return to form for the Rays is like they're both really good framers.
Yeah,
that's like their biggest carrying skill. And so I think that's a thing that they are looking at, is like we can deal with. Listen, we know what bad offense looks like from a catching position. We've lived in it for so long.
Mm-hmm.
This is now like we need you to block the filthy stuff that like Joe Boyle is throwing you, and you need to frame the stuff that's on the edges that Shane Baz is throwing you, right? Because otherwise those pitches have to go into the middle of the zone and they've been getting crushed. So you need to be able to steal those pitches and get a count going from 1-1 to 1-2 rather than 2-1, which completely changes every at bat. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's very fair to doubt any Rays catcher until they actually succeed. I am just quite excited about this skill set that Hunter Fiducia has, and the fact that he is available, not because a team is like, we just got to get rid of him. It's that it's the same reason why the Red Sox got Narvaez. Right. Like we have too many. We literally are overflow. Like, who do we want to get rid of? Will Smith, we just signed to $1 million. We have Dalton Rushing, who's a top 5 prospect who can't get into there. And then Austin Barnes was not that good, but he was sort of like, he was kind of like a personal catcher to a lot of those vets. So he was kind of there as like, we're not using him that often. He's just like giving a spell for Will Smith. Like there's a reason, like Hunter Fiducia isn't like getting called up because the team is like, well, this guy with 80 WRC plus, we kind of like him a lot. It's more like, who do we send down? Will Smith has been an all-star like 6 years, and like this is we signed him to a 10-year deal. Like we're good. I don't know. I think this is the fact that he was available from the Dodgers, who have a rich system, who are completely blocked. The fact that his skill set is there, I think this is a really good. And the fact that the Rays traded legit pieces for him. This isn't just like, I don't know, like Curtis Mead for whoever your best catcher is. We'll take it. Right. That's not just shifting pieces around. This does feel like a targeted thing. Whether they're right, we'll find out. But I'm excited about it. Plus, you mentioned it, Mike Zunino, last truly great all-star catching season. What does Zunino and Fiducia have in common? They're paisans.
Yeah.
Bring on. This is the opposite of anti-Italian discrimination here from the Rays. You got. And the other cool thing with Fiducia, teammates with Johnny DeLuca, another paisan. We got some, we got a lot of Italian. And it caught Ryan Pepio.
Yeah.
At probably over several years, actually.
Yeah.
Just seeing where they kind of lined up in terms of their minor stuff. So could be a guy that, like, if Pepio has worked with him well, like that could be really nice to get him right. Because we've seen Pepio, he's been really good, but he's had a couple of weirdly bad like blow up starts, including this last one, where it's like, if you just tune that in a little bit, you could be good. I don't know, maybe there's some comfort level, but I'm excited about this piece. I'm a little bit on an island here. I think I know Adam Sanford, if you're listening. Hi Adam, we had some very good discussions. He was a big
Serenowski.
fan. He had written about him, and I don't deny that Serenowski is a really good prospect,
Yeah.
really good stuff. I'm just ready to have a good catcher, and I'm believing.
There is risk. There is risk on this trade for both sides. I mean, the Dodgers kind of low risk for them.
They're just churning pieces.
There was risk for the Reds to get Littell. There was risk in the Rays, and then flipping Stromanowski to get a catcher that may or may not work. But I think it's such small risk that I'm really not thinking about this too much. Like, now that the deal has been made, you're only moving forward. Like, I don't think throwing out unless he comes up and wins a Cy Young. Like, if he turns into a big league starter, you'll be like, man, maybe we should have rethought that. But it is what it is.
This feels more like Christopher Sanchez, which I know people are bringing up a lot because Sanchez is amazing, and Meade now was kind of like a throw-in for a rental vet. Right. But like Christopher Sanchez was traded before he was Christopher Sanchez. It took that's kind of,
and then Meade was traded before he was Meade, and then he became something that we haven't seen pan out.
Like
in the big
this was
yet.
A development. Like you can be disappointed in the development from the Rays on Meade, but I think you have to tip your cap to the development of the Phillies. Because Christopher Sanchez was not this top, huge, crazy prospect when he was traded. He was a good prospect, but very young, moldable clay. So you got to tip your cap to Christopher Sanchez and the Phillies for developing into the pitcher he is today. So that's the same thing with Serenowski, right? Like the Dodgers have an amazing system, and they could absolutely develop him into an amazing pitcher. And in 4 years, he could be a great pitcher that's going on the IL for the Dodgers. And so like that's what they do. But that would, I'm not going to be losing sleep over it, and I really hope we're not fighting, relitigating this trade that many years from now, because we don't know what he is yet. We don't, like this is development, right? Pitching, you will go nuts in looking at low A trades of pitching development because there's so many outcomes. He has he's probably 2 Tommy John surgeries away from the major leagues.
So I don't really care to know the answer to like were the Rays buyers or sellers at this deadline, but I think there is an important question right now, and is the Rays active roster better today than it was on July 1?
Potentially. How is that for a hedge? I think I would say if I had to put myself on one line or the other, I say yes. Yes, actually no, I say yes just by Griffin Jacks alone. I think there's debate on whether Hauser is true talent level better than Littell.
So you could say the rotation, is it better, not performance wise, but what you're projecting from here on out, is Boyle Hauser better than Bradley Littell?
Yes.
We'll see.
Definitively, I would say yes.
Really? Okay.
I would say yes, and I think Boyle maybe does a big part of this. I don't think Taj is a fix away this year. I think Taj could be much better next year. I think he could be absolutely elite.
Yeah.
As soon as next year. I think that splitter, I think the Twins would be wise to take it easy on him and really build him up. He needs that splitter, and he needs a fourth pitch. He needs at least something that he can use. Not a high percentage, but he needs something. But that splitter is key. He lost it completely. He lost it after he lost it after his AL pitcher of the month. Until he gets that back, Taj is not a usable starter. So he can have a good start and pitch, and bats can be missed because it's hitting is hard, but he is not usable yet. So I think the rest of this year, Joe Boyle, even with his command issues, the stuff is so good that he can get away with a lot more.
Yeah.
A lot more.
Yeah. And when I say is the active roster better than it was, I don't, you're still taking into account, okay, Hassan Kim is not back, but should be back soon. Jonathan Aranda will miss some time.
That's a big drop.
So I maybe I'm thinking before the injuries, and the injuries are kind of unfortunate. We don't really know the status of Yandy Diaz or Chandler Simpson, but it looks like they'll be fine. Maybe they take a day off today, but they'll be available off the bench.
Yeah.
Don't really know the situation there, but we do know Aranda will go on the IL.
He will miss
sometime. But it sounds like we got better news after the sometime prognosis, which is like,
Yeah, X-rays were negative,
yeah,
so that's good. Although sprains can linger even longer than
well,
broken.
I don't know. Look, Jordan Alvarez, like they keep every time they look, they keep finding more stuff wrong in there.
The sprains can be worse. Like that. That
Yeah,
is the
they
key.
don't
Like
heal as cleanly.
it's more variable, right? So like
Mhm.
that's the injury. That's like with Judge is the other big issue. Like with the Yankees, right? Is they're like, yeah, he'll be back probably soon, ish, maybe. But like that is not an injury that's like you'll be back here. Like this will take this long. It
Right,
could be like I don't know. It still feels weird,
and
and that's a
and it's his
danger.
lead
That's
hand. No, it's his it's his backhand. It was his glove hand, and he's a right-handed fielder, so it's his backhand on the swing.
on
Aranda.
wait who Aranda. Yes,
So
yes,
that
it
does have
is.
an impact. Like maybe the performance isn't as good. I think the top four players in the American League in batting average are all hurt right now.
Yeah,
Judge,
they
Jeremy
are.
Pena, Aranda, and Alejandro Kirk.
Yep. Yeah, it's the
That's pretty
nines.
crazy. So I was kind of pushed. Maybe I was like tempting fate and thinking, oh, if Judge misses enough time and Pena misses enough time, Aranda could waltz his way into a batting title, and now he might fall off of being a qualifier as well. So
Yeah, it's
we'll
gonna
see.
be. And Jacob Wilson also just
Yeah,
he's out for I think the
yeah.
rest of the season too. So yeah, man,
Um,
not a good time. Watch out, Luisa Rise. There's a grim reaper for batting average coming around.
I think we can agree that the bullpen is just better
Significantly better.
by a lot.
Yeah.
I think we can disagree a little bit about how much of an upgrade it is for the starting rotation. Um, but I mean, you say definitively, but kind of like on the margin, like it's still on the margins though, right? Like it's not like you've
I think
gone out.
Taj was so unworkable.
And you think Boyle though will be that much better over a larger sample?
I don't know it, but I would take that bet.
Okay,
I
that's
would take
fair.
that bet. Like we're talking
That's a
about
risky bet. I mean, we
we're
saw him
taking
get roughed up,
gambles, but
even with the strikeout stuff, get roughed up a little bit in New York.
a lot. I mean, yes, but you got to defend better.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was
oh,
an
yeah.
error away from having what a 2-run game. Like that's I don't know. Like that's the part to me is like that was Joe Boyle kind of not working, and he still was like roughing up the Yankees. And I saw that same Yankees lineup that pummeled Ryan Tepia.
But I don't think Hauser's better than Littell. I think Littell is markedly better
I
than
think that's going to
Hauser.
be the interesting one. I don't know if I know it. I just know that he's been better. And maybe it's all a mirage, but like
Hauser or
he's been
Littell?
Hauser like
Yeah.
this year. This year.
That's
I
the
mean
thing
like
is Littell. I'm confident in even in a bad ballpark. He was pitching in a bad
yeah.
ballpark this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm more confident in Littell. So
It's
I
it,
think the
it
starting rotation,
how
you
much
probably won't notice it, whether it's
I
worse or
think
better.
I would say that's I think to me is I think Hauser Littell is a push
Yeah,
personally. I think that's more of a push,
I kind of
and
think
I think
Boyle.
Boyle.
I think Boyle and Bradley is too.
Yeah, I mean it's possible. It is possible.
I
I
think
just
Boyle's going to have enough rough
man,
starts in there. Like Bradley 3 weeks ago had like a 12 strikeout start. Like
yeah, but those are I think that's when you're looking at that as like that is, and he's demoted like 2 starts later. That shows that start was such a
an outlier, yeah, based
that's
on some of
such
the
a like he
performances.
was getting lucky, and
Yeah,
that is the danger, right? Is I think Joe Boyle he got a little bit unlucky in a start. I think Taj the good starts were the luck, and you
yeah,
were seeing like each of those, and even in some of those good starts, there was moments where it was like about to go off the rails,
yeah.
and it's not, and this is not me saying because this is 2 weeks, right? Anything can happen in 50 innings, but like this is not me saying definitively these players are better or worse than the other. I'm just saying that if I'm taking a bet on
For the rest of
after-end
this season,
starts, I'm taking the bet that Joe Boyle right now is a more workable starting pitcher than Taj Bradley, and that Hauser and Littell are a push. They're fine. They're both, I think, pretty solid.
smart.
Hauser, I think, has been better so far. I don't know if he'll be better in this ballpark. Littell is, I think, rock solid. I would say good push on that, and the Boyle is the one that I'd say is just definitively better because the stuff is just carrying him, and Taj, his stuff without the splitter is just not good enough to overcome the command, whereas Joe Boyle's command has gotten to be about the same as Taj, but the stuff is just so much more electric right now. So that's what I would say for the rotation. Is I would say it's close. I think it is close, but I think you have shuffled it. I think they've shuffled it better, and the bullpen is where it's like a definitively big. Like that is, I mean, they've added such a bigger piece, such a better piece there. The positions with Rhonda out, I'd say it's worse, obviously,
Right.
because
Yeah.
you're
That's why I'm
missing an
kind of
all-star.
trying to take that out of the equation in terms of
But
how
if
the Rays
Rhonda was
approach the deadline.
there, it would be probably equal. I was kind of hoping. I think the biggest thing for me is I was hoping for more from the position side. I'm a little disappointed because I was hoping for more of a. I was just hoping for a definitive switch up
And
because I was just sick of seeing some of these players.
You were hoping for an outfielder that will start next year. That will help this year, but is back for the next year.
Yes, and to be fair, Everson Perea is somebody that could be that, but he is a bit too much of a question mark for me.
Right.
That's more of like a question mark. I would have liked to see Morel traded to open a spot for like Trey Morgan. Like I would like even if it wasn't you're getting the pieces back. Like I was really hoping for like Taj for Lars Nootbaar. I've been wanting Nootbaar for a long time. Like I was hoping to get like a piece, but like Perea or like Rodon of Toronto, right? Because like that also would have been trade. Good. So like that would have been like if you traded Pete Fairbanks. So this is let's talk about this because this is the other thing, right? Is that the Rays didn't make some trades because this deadline was also very notable because the Rays didn't make some trades. They did not trade Garrett Clevenger. They did not trade Pete Fairbanks. They did not trade Yandy Diaz, and they did not trade Brandon Lau. And I think those were the pieces when we were talking about for big upgrades. Those are the pieces that you needed to move, or Carson Williams, Theo Gillen, that type of thing. And the Rays did not trade any of those pieces. So they did not definitively fix 2026's outfield, and they did not definitively improve this year's outfield, but they also didn't lose out on any like trade capital that they could have done it. Taj was the biggest piece, but they did use that for another huge upgrade. That's also a solve for next year.
And maybe what it comes down to, if you're shopping Taj in a trade for an outfielder, a big league outfielder like a Lars Nootbaar, if you say, okay, we can move him for a major league corner outfielder, or we can look at this maybe even more glaring need in our bullpen, get a guy who by a lot of numbers is one of the best at his position, and trust out of the group of Josh Lowe, who's been struggling, Jake Mangum, Christopher Morel, Trey Morgan, Everson Pereira. Out of that group, we'll find our corner outfielders. Mm-hmm. And it might not be the easy solution of we found a guy that's going to have a 120 WRC plus and play every day. Those guys are hard to find, but maybe we can find the right mix to get us where we need to be for this year. And then we can look at this again in the offseason. Because like you said, they kept Brandon Lau, Yandy Diaz, Pete Fairbanks. And while I think Lau and Diaz were kept with the idea that they will be on the team opening day 2026, I'm not quite sure that's the case with Pete Fairbanks, especially with the acquisition of Jax. Fairbanks is the one I was most shocked to not see trade. You looked at what the market was for closers, and if you match Fairbanks and what he's kind of done this year with some of those other guys, even though he's been a lockdown closer, like the results are there, he might not have been the same caliber of pitchers, definitely not like a Mason Miller. So maybe the market just didn't materialize for Fairbanks because
not as many years of control as Duran.
The supply was out there. Like there were a lot of relievers out there. And so maybe Fairbanks just wasn't as attractive to other teams. But it would not shock me to see him moved this offseason.
Not at all. Not at all.
So again, Diaz and Lau, I think that means they're back for next season, which is really exciting. It should be exciting for Rays fans, right? I mean, these are guys that have been up. Brandon Lau made his debut in the 2018 season. If you carry these guys into 2026 season, two of the longest tenure Rays of all time. So many people, you hear about the Rays, they don't keep their best players. They've kept these guys a lot longer than people thought they would, and a lot longer than most guys stay with any team, any big market team.
Mm-hmm.
They have planted their flags with Brandon Lau and Yanni Diaz. That is, I think, really fun to see if you're fans of those guys and fans of the team.
100%. And it's also why I get like annoyed about the like kind of memeing of like, oh yeah, like whatever, he'll be traded when like X, which
Yeah.
especially now, like right now, it's like, okay, well, we don't know what the new ownership is. Maybe they'll trade people even more aggressively, or maybe they'll stubbornly hold people until they're like complete pariahs in the fans because they're terrible and old and broken. We don't know what that is, but I also think because of Yandy and Lau, like it sort of disproves. It's like you're gonna find that they are gonna trade some people always, but like it's not a guarantee. It's not a lock, and these guys have stuck around, and yet we could see them traded in the off season. But I also kind of keep coming back to like, man, if the deal wasn't here where you could like potentially like really swap it out, then like, man, maybe you're just like, I'm pretty comfortable with him next year.
Yeah, and again,
and they seemed
new
to come
owner.
into this, a new owner, right? Like they seem to come into this with them like as not really touchable, as untouchable as the Rays can ever make anybody, right? Like as like I think probably only Junior and maybe Aranda were like truly like we're not really talking, we're not even discussing that, but like Lau and Yandy seemingly came in. There was the talk of like, oh, they're softening their stances. I don't know how much. Don't know how true that was.
Some
And
of
it's
that
very
I
possible.
do feel like is like the Rays want those calls because if there is a team that's willing to overpay, Neander is always going to be willing to dance. I think that was what prompted the Blake Snell trade. I don't think the Rays went into that offseason after 2020 looking to trade Blake Snell. But when AJ Preller, who's crazy man on drugs, comes in with this mega at the time, like the Snell return, you could disagree that trading, like you could say that trading Snell, no matter what the return was, is not good. But that, if you're going to trade him, it was going to be for a return like that, and it's completely and not worked out for the Rays. But
prospects will break your heart, right? Like they, as much as like right, so like you don't get Christopher Sanchez without trading for like a Luis Patino, and it just so happened that one developed, one didn't. Like that's the way you could the Rays the Meade and Christopher Sanchez trade could have been a loss. They could have both been just complete flameouts. Mm-hmm. And both are like, well, we tried. Who cares? Like it's amazing how these things work out. The Mason Miller trade was for like the number 3 overall prospect in all of baseball, Luis DeVries, and it was a shocking move. Like a truly AJ Preller is a madman. But like Luis, Preller is not gonna be at fault for that until at least like 3 years from now. Probably 4, and who knows? Like he lives basically like we all could die at any moment. So who cares?
He is managing like there's going to be a lockout and we're never going to have Major League Baseball again.
That's just that it is just it will just be
after the lockout, it'll be climate change, it'll be water shortages, like
nuclear war. He's like nobody will care about Luis DeVries after the incoming apocalypse. You'll all love me. Which, it's good. AJ Preller is good for baseball because we need lunatics in the game running teams.
I agree. And there needs to be a different like strategy. And I think in baseball, you're able to see that more than in other sports of how GMs approach trading and roster construction.
Trades like this in any other sport. Like this is you don't get that in basketball. You don't get it in football at all. And like hockey, like very little. Baseball is one of the truly unique
big basketball trades now just feel like money laundering. Like it's like a lot of like contract and this role player who is somehow making $27 million a year is getting moved, but they're going to waive him right away, so he'll become a free agent. Like so the basketball, you do get the big blockbuster ones, but even those are like kind of nonsensical to me in a sporting
9 draft
team building
picks
standpoint.
Every other year with swaps, like 4 of them are swaps, and this is and it's like, good Lord, it's baseball really does have like the most like exciting bits of that. And yeah, I do. I love that. And I think with AJ Preller, as crazy as he is with those trades, the San Diego Padres are much better positioned to win this year than like
They could win that division and put themselves in a really good spot in the postseason.
absolutely. And then you look at like Boston Red Sox, what they did. They're playing well, and Craig Breslow, I think, had a horrendously bad deadline. Truly one of the worst of all time. What he's accomplished this year is salary dumping Rafael Devers, and then taking one of the two interesting pieces in that trade and moving it for 2 months of Dustin May, who is fine.
Yeah.
Who is Adrian Hauser, basically.
Yeah.
He did not trade any of his, and apparently, like, this is the report, like Ken Rosenthal was talking about this. Like, there was a lot of frustration around the rest of the league, and like GMs talking openly. I mean, not openly, off the record, like hidden, like freely about like how basically Breslow just like he was completely out of his depth in terms of what like the cost of things were. Like they're like, we'll offer this, and he's like, absolutely not.
He's just using baseball trade values, which like what a broken site that is now. First off, behind a paywall.
He's paying for that. That's where the money is. That's where the Devers money is going. It's like he apparently was like he would trade the what passcode Garcia, but he would not move any of the major league outfielders. And it's like,
which, I mean,
I get it. I get that there is a strategy there, and the Red Sox could even win. They can go to the postseason, and who knows what happens in the postseason. And maybe he wins a World Series.
In trading
a terrible job of it.
Trading Rafael Devers, like, could put them in a really bad spot, a desperate spot, in the way they handled all of that. So again, it's maybe less about making the wrong decisions now, more than it was the things you did leading up to this put you in a really tough spot, where everyone knew what you needed and they knew what you had, and there wasn't a lot of leverage there.
And you could be bent over the barrel on it.
Yeah.
Like, I know
that. And maybe I give props to Breslow for like holding, if he had the valuation for some of these outfielders, but like something's going to have to give eventually for them moving forward.
I want to know, like, what was the offer for Joe Ryan? Because like, I guarantee you Joe Ryan was on the table. Literally everybody was. And Joe Ryan completely changes the perspective of the Boston Red Sox. Dylan Cease, maybe you don't want to trade Duran for Dylan Cease.
Or like Yandy Diaz. At the end of the day, it's like, am I going to give up one of these controllable outfielders for a 34-year-old DH? Like, is that a smart move? In a vacuum, it's not. But given their situation in what Red Sox fans want to see, that's something that, again, in some of these different markets, there's other pressures. I think Eric Neander doesn't have a lot of those pressures here, and that allows him to do things the way he wants to.
Or the Cubs. I mean, the Cubs, I think, are not off the hook. They went out and they got Mike Soroka as their pitcher, and like, fine,
Willie Castro.
Like, weird stuff, right? Like, this is like, those are not bad moves in general, and they didn't give up a lot of capital, but like, apparently, like Moises Balacero is off the table. And they didn't trade Owen Casey, and they didn't trade Kevin Alcantara. But like, if you're the Cubs, do you not want to take a chance on Taj Bradley for like Kevin Alcantara?
Right.
Like, is that not like an option there to get you another starter? Or, I mean, again, Joe Ryan, like the price tag could have been too much, right? You could have been like smacked. But like, Dylan Cease was seemingly available. Everybody, they were offering him for everyone. And like, maybe they didn't have the major league talent to move that. But I think the Cubs and the Tigers did not add a ton, but like, I think they did a bunch of really small moves that I think add up to be pretty good. I think the Mariners did a bunch of moves that like really helped them and are kind of win now. They could have gone more. I feel like they should have, they needed to go a little bit more. And that's where AJ Preller, like, again, he gutted the entire top 30. Like, he traded almost everybody. But like, that's when you go all in. If you're pushing chips, right? It is a perfect example with like poker. If you are going to bluff, or if you are going to move all in and you want somebody to fold, you got to push chips. You have to risk them calling. You can't go, I'll do a smaller raise and hope they fail. Because that's what I think some of these other teams did. Red Sox, Cubs, there was ample opportunity to really boost a World Series potential team. Didn't do it. I think the Mariners did a lot. I think really improved themselves. Really needed one more bullpen piece. I think when you look at some other teams, like I respect them. I respect the Padres. I respect the madness. I love the madness.
Yeah.
We're all gonna die. The world's going to shit. So trade your prospects and try to get a ring. Who cares?
We'll see. We'll see. It's exciting. The Rays, I mean, the postseason is going to be very difficult. You're 4 games out. You have 4 teams to jump to get into that. You're behind Kansas City by a half game, only 1 game in the loss column. You're a game behind Cleveland, 3 games behind Texas, and 4 behind Seattle. But you're only then 5 behind Boston and 7.5 behind New York. So none of those teams are outside of the reach, in a realistic world, but it's going to be very tough. You're going to really have to flip the script. You're coming off of literally one of the worst months in franchise history. When the All-Star break kind of broke that up, it's kind of hard to realize, like, man, they were really atrociously bad. And like law of averages would tell you, and regression to the mean would tell you that they will not be that bad in August. But they need to
They've
be
won
much
one
better.
series since sweeping the Royals.
They would need to get hot like they did in June, they were like a month of being the best team in baseball, which we know they're capable of, clearly.
And they're playing some, like, they have a series. They have a series against Seattle. They have 2 series against Seattle, right? So like you go 5-1 in that, and suddenly, you're in the postseason and Seattle's not. That's how quickly that can change. So they have to play better. We will see if they did enough. I think the thing that they did, though, this deadline is I don't think they improved this year's club somewhat. I think the biggest thing is they added Griffin Jackson. That is a huge improvement on the weakest spot of the team. They didn't trade anything that greatly reduces the talent level of this year's current club. But they also didn't put themselves in a spot where they are changing their window or hurting 2026. And I think that is a difficult needle to thread. And I think with the way they were, I think the disappointment of June, though, or July, is that I think Neander could have done some Preller-esque lunacy this deadline.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think they absolutely tanked any chance of that. And I think they made the right call to not, like, you don't want to do too much rentals. You don't want to go too crazy. Like, do you trade? Like, I think trading Carson Williams or Brandon Lau and like really shaking it up and like trying for this year, I think they're in a spot where they are not that far off from the postseason. And they absolutely, I think if you look at their talent level, you look at so 2 of the teams that are ahead of them, Cleveland and Kansas City, they are negative in run differential, like well down. Seattle is at plus 22. The Rays are at plus 50. Like, they should be about 10 games above 500. They're 2 games under. So they are a better team, and they have performed better than a lot of those teams ahead of them. So they are looking at that and saying, we have the team to be able to make the postseason. They're not so far out of it that they shouldn't try, but I also think they did put themselves in a spot where, like, I'm glad that they didn't go too crazy buying. They bought in ways that do not affect the long-term or short-term outcome of the team. And Griffin Jackson is a really exciting piece. Same with Brian Baker for next year's bullpen. And they didn't sell the pieces that could also be part of off-season trades or the opening day roster next year.
I agree. I think there's value in like, even if they miss the postseason this year, they finish with an above 500 record, where if they had opened up everybody and traded everybody, there's a real chance that, like, it felt like the bottom fell out this month, that it was just not going to get any better. And you finish with, like, in last place in the American League East. And it's just a really bad season. I think if your eyes are on 2026 and you're looking at the position player group and it's going to look mainly the same, we think it's a lot easier to be like, man, we only finished 3 games out. All we got to do is we got the same group back. There might be more additions. You might have Carson Williams come up. There's like a level of morale, I think, that goes into that as well, and showing that you're invested in this group of players. I don't know. I think that can be exciting. I think next year is going to have already, a refreshing note on it. New owner, most likely, potentially a new stadium deal. Some of the energy that you had
back to the Trop, back to a real
back at the
stadium.
Trop, like I think that is a big thing. I think there's going to be a lot of excitement. I think maybe like there's been so much for the last 5 years, uncertainty, but longer than that, but uncertainty around the franchise, so many players being traded. You've been kicked out of your spring training home and your real stadium, both due to different hurricanes. You've had the season not starting on time in 2021. You've had COVID. Like there hasn't been a normal season, and I think next year there's going to be like a return to normalcy. I think it's going to be a real shot of energy for the clubhouse and for the team.
Knowing that you're potentially here to stay and actually mean it.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. I'm happy. We've gone on for a long time. There was a lot of trades to discuss. I think the Rays were one of the most active teams, and they did their work right up to the deadline. Very different from last year where they got all their work done early. But now we're back at the point where we can focus on baseball. We know what this group is. They've got 2 months to try to turn this thing around, and we'll see. It might not work out, but they're not going to go down without a fight. So that's going to do it for this week's episode, second episode of the week for Raise Your Voice. I think we'll be back in just a few days with next week's episode to talking more about how the team is looking on the field. They get started this weekend against the Dodgers. Blake Snell can be pitching. He's back for the Dodgers. Should be pitching in Tampa. But yeah, that's it for today's episode. Thank you guys for listening. We've been live on youtube.com/@raiseyourvoice. So if you're still watching on there, drop a like on this video, subscribe to our channel, turn on those notifications so you can join us whenever we go live. And of course, we're still available wherever you get your podcasts. If you leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, that's one of the best ways to spread what we do to more and more Rays fans. And if you love what we do here on Raise Your Voice, head on over to patreon.com/raiseyourvoice, where you can become a member for as little as $1 a month. We would greatly appreciate that. As always, head on over to draysbay.com to check out all the great trade deadline coverage, different articles on the site, game recaps every single night. Once again, thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.